So I went carnivore for 30 days, and here's what happened. Hi, I'm Tom, and this is my carnivore life. So when I went carnivore, I did a fairly strict carnivore for 30 days. And I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly of what happened during that first 30 days. So the first thing was, it was easier than I thought it was going to be because I didn't have to worry about shuffling through the grocery store and looking for this, looking for that, what kind of, reading labels and all that. I just ate meat. I mean, it was simple. Steak, chicken, pork, eggs, bacon, ham. It was easy. Grocery shopping was a breeze. I was in the grocery store 10 minutes and out. And to my surprise, my grocery bill was actually cheaper than what it was when I was eating a standard American diet. So that kind of threw me for a loop because I thought it was going to be a lot more expensive. So the first thing that happened was going to the bathroom and peeing. I swear to God that every half hour I was in the bathroom peeing. I guess my first month's weight loss was truly water weight because the middle of the night, it didn't matter. It was all day, 24 hours a day for probably the first 3 or 4 days. I didn't think I was ever going to stop peeing. But finally things calmed down and I got back to normal schedule, if you will. I had drank a lot of water because I had heard that, you need to stay hydrated when you're on this. And so I wanted to make sure I was getting enough water. And I was drinking probably close to a gallon a day. So the second thing I noticed, now I've never been a breakfast eater that much. I would have some occasionally, but so I've always been a 16-8 or 18-6 intermittent fasting the majority of my life anyways. So breakfast really was no big deal. Lunches, they were a little challenging at first, trying to figure out what I could eat. Obviously I'm driving in a work truck, so I'm in the field all day. So I don't have access to a microwave oven or anything like that. And I had to find food that I could eat that didn't have to be warmed up. And the first week or two, I pretty much relied on deli meats and cheeses. I would do roll-ups. I would eat pepperoni slices, hard-boiled egg. After about the second week, I kind of figured out that if I used a glass dish, I could put meat in the dish and set it on the dash of my truck, and the sun would act like a solar oven, and the sun coming through the windshield in the glass bowl would heat up the meat. So now it wouldn't work if it was a cloudy day or rainy, but on the sunny days, I could have hot dogs that were hot. I could have hamburger and eggs that were hot. So that was really a little bit of a game changer on that aspect of things. But even though I was still hydrating, I started getting leg cramps at night. And they were mainly around my ankles. I'm not sure why it would primarily focused on my ankles, but I would wake up in the middle of the night, just excruciating pain. And I would have to get up, walk around to get it to release the cramps. So I increased my salt intake. That seemed to help a little bit. They weren't quite as frequent, but that probably continued for 3 months or so until I finally got it under control. I started taking magnesium, and I found an electrolyte drink that wasn't pumped full of pseudo sugars and chemicals, and that really calmed things down finally. Now, my first month, I lost about 12 pounds. So not too shabby. Like I said, I think a lot of that, at least half of it, had to have been water weight. My clothes began to fit better. Actually, it got loose. But then the one thing that really got me was the diarrhea. And anybody that's done carnivore knows what I'm talking about. And it was like every other day, just out of the blue, boom, get hit, off, run into the bathroom. And sometimes it would be 2 or 3 times a night. And I didn't think that was ever going to end. thought for sure I was doing something wrong because I shouldn't have had that. But that's a normal thing, and it really depends on what your health status is and how much weight you have to lose. And there's a lot of factors that play into this as to how long that's going to last for you. And I had it off and on for about 6 months. I would go a couple of weeks, be fine, and then boom, it would hit me. But it would only be one occurrence, and then I'd be good for another 2 or 3 weeks. And then over the last 3 or 4 months, I haven't had any bouts with it, so that's finally calmed down. Now, the only thing that I had outside of water was coffee. So I have 2 cups of coffee in the morning, and that's it. Now, I did start adding butter to my coffee. And in the afternoon, when I got home from work, I would eat a teaspoon of butter. And I'm sure that played a role in the diarrhea, but I wanted to make sure I was getting enough fats. I've always cooked in animal fats and oils. I never really bought into the whole vegetable oil thing. So the only difference there was I started rendering my own lard and tallow and began using that because I wanted to make sure again that I was getting enough fats in my diet. So after about 30 days, give or take a couple of days, the first thing I noticed was the mental clarity. Waking up, being alert, my memory improved. It was kind of different, and I noticed it right away. It was like, I'm wide awake. And normally it would take me an hour or two before I'm fully functional and ready to hit the day's work. And I was ready right out of the gate. I probably could have done away with the coffee. I probably still don't need it, but I enjoy it, so I still drink it. But then, right around the 30-day mark was the second thing that I noticed, and that was my energy level skyrocketed. And I don't mean I just felt a little bit of energy. I mean, it was unbelievable. I woke up just full of energy, had my coffee, and that probably exasperated the whole thing anyways. But from 5 o'clock in the morning to about 6 o'clock at night, I was non-stop. I could not sit still. I just had to find stuff to do, because if I didn't, I was going to drive myself and my wife crazy. It had probably been since I was late teens, early 20s since I felt energy like that. And it was, like I said, it was amazing to feel that energy. And after 30 days, I noticed that my waist size had gone down about 2 sizes. So even though it was only a 12-pound weight loss, I was actually gaining a little bit of muscle, and part of that's due to the type of work that I do, because it is physically demanding. I didn't exercise. I didn't go for walks. None of that. I just ate different. And my body composition changed a little bit. I began to see a little bit of my ribs that I hadn't seen in a long time. Even my wife commented I was starting to feel a little bit bony. So the transformation was beginning at that point, and being able to start to see some physical differences, even though the scale wasn't moving, huge amounts, but it was still above the average 1.5 to 2 pounds a week. So I was happy with that. And that's pretty much it for the first 30 days. And after 30 days, I also noticed that my craving for sweets pretty much dropped off the cliff. Because prior to that, I would have Pop-Tarts in the morning with a chocolate milk before I started my work day, maybe 3 times a week. M&Ms were a staple. Peanut M&Ms were my favorite. And I could chow down a 5-pound bag in an evening if I didn't watch myself. So the cravings for chips and things like that, gone. Didn't even bother me. I was used to carnivore at that point. I was satiated. I ate until I was full. Used plenty of Redmond's real salt. I did use a little bit of Himalayan in the beginning, and then I switched. And I think not the Himalayan, but the real salt helped with the electrolytes. But that's pretty much what happened the first 30 days. And I know everybody's different, but this can kind of give you a little bit of insight into what you could possibly expect to happen during your first 30 days. You may have none of these symptoms. You may have all of them. You may have half of them. Again, it depends on what state you're coming from in your health journey. That's going to dictate what you really learn all the experience, and it depends on what type of work you do too, I believe. You know, if you're sitting in an office chair, I think your chances of getting leg cramps are probably less than what someone who's in the field like me doing manual labor is going to get. So I hope this gives you some insight and will allow you to get prepared if you're planning on starting the carnivore diet, and gives you a little bit of a roadmap of, you know, where you're going to go and what you may experience, so you can mentally prepare yourself for this. If you have started the carnivore diet and had anything like this, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you experienced and what you did to remediate it. How long did it last? So other people can see what other people who are doing this have experienced, so they can prepare themselves for this. Hope you enjoyed this video. Give me a like, subscribe, and have a great day.